Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I think I've uncovered some more knowledge on playing Automate, so let's just go ahead and give it a go. The first thing that I've noticed is that since the queen is undervalued, it's actually really good to have multiple queens in this. So even though it is expensive and you do have to commit a lot of material right up at the front, it's actually okay. Additionally, I think in previous videos of Automate, I've recommended sort of overloading one side and attacking on one side. And I think that's still actually quite a powerful strategy, but this time we're going to just leverage the power of the queen as well. So let's see how this plays out. Again, I'm trying to put my lower value pieces down first. Sort of try to see what this guy is all about. So if there's any targets that I definitely want to attack those. The change that we're going to make, especially also if we're white, then we're going to place down pieces very aggressively. If I were to play with black in this, I would actually put down some pieces in more conservative squares, a little bit more defensive. So I can't afford more queens, but yeah, sometimes I'm doing 2, sometimes 3 queens, depending on what my opponent does. I think if you use too many queens and your opponent does the all knights, then it's actually not going to work out for you. But this game, I think 2 queens should be enough, since this person's looking to do the all knights strategy, which I don't think is that great. All knights except for 1 queen. Okay. So I have a couple of open files to penetrate on, and then also, yeah, there's definitely a couple of squares. This is still a threat. Yeah, so I'm still going to be able to win it upon at least, unless they have some other better move. Computer prefers to just immediately trade here. Okay. This is still a weak point, but yeah, he's got it defended at least a little bit. A +5 plus, yeah, about a +5 advantage. That should definitely be enough to win. Although I have encountered some games that seemed like you would have a sizable advantage, and then it turned out to be a draw. So oddly enough, having the knights actually does a decent job of holding some of the squares on the open file, so that's why it's not as easy as it seems like it should be. It's also funny to note, in a lot of these games, the computer will offer some material. So previously my rook had gone to a8 and black could have captured, but clearly they had some reason why they didn't want to. Also note that in some of the games that I've played, I've taken a look at the computer's analysis, and they're not always playing the perfect moves. So there is some chance in this that you just can't control. So it probably is using Stockfish, but it's only using a very short, limited depth of it. So that's the reason why sometimes your opponent can actually play better moves than you, even though the actual Stockfish, when you go in depth, it may say that you should have an advantage. And that's happened to me, and that's a bit frustrating. So this is not simple, and all these knights all over the place, that would be quite a task for any human player to do. But because of the ability for the computer to just play through this, then this is going to play through a lot faster. Still a very interesting and imbalanced position though. And then I was thinking just perhaps push. And that should be just about it. Okay, so we'll start up a new one. And we'll perhaps play a third one. So we'll try to do it in threes. Try to keep these videos a little bit brief, but yeah, we'll play maybe at least one more. So hopefully I can have an opponent who also puts down a couple queens, so we can see what that looks like when I put down more than 2 queens. And also sometimes I'm putting the pawn on the rook file, and then I could actually use bishops on both diagonals. So this is also kind of an interesting setup. Makes things really flexible. My opponent is putting some pawns on some pretty sturdy squares. So looks like I'll just have to come back and do something more normal. Yeah, I was blessed with having the white pieces this game, and I think that is quite a big advantage in automating, especially if you make sure that you have a lot of pieces on very active positions. I'm going to note that I can take a look at this guy. Let's try this. Let's try making sure that we put down a lot of queens on this one. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any of his pieces yet, so this could be a little bit risky, placing so many queens before. Okay, so he places 1 queen. I don't want to give away that I'm going to place a 3rd queen just yet, so I need to make sure I have 7 points. So I have 5 points left to place. Perhaps we'll put a rook down here, just to continue to make some sort of threat against my opponent right off the bat. And again, we're overloading one side, so we're really targeting the king side. Okay, interesting. Let's do it. Let's place 1 more queen. We just want to take control of a lot of squares. This can be kind of annoying if he like places a bishop here and it's guarded, so like maybe a bishop here. Okay, interesting. That's very weird. We just have 1 more pawn to place, and we'll put him. Okay, maybe I'll just put him here, since this queen looking at g6 is actually not that useful. We have really good control over this square. If he doesn't do something about it, then I could maybe use this to my advantage. Okay, and then we'll put our king. We'll just keep our king on the back. So my opponent's using 2 queens, and he's going to have to, this is awkward for him, he's going to have to put down 2 pawns. Maybe a pawn here and a pawn here would be the most logical. You have to put a pawn down here. Okay, so he messed up. This should be a pretty easy game for me. I wish he had put the pawn in the other location, because then it would be not as easy for me to just rip through his position. This is already really awkward, because this is going to cramp my opponent a lot. Interesting sacrifice. For some reason, can't be accepted. And then queen versus rook. This is totally winning. I think one of the tricks to this is, yeah, it's absolutely fine if you use a lot of queens, but you have to get some sort of open position to happen. The queen really suffers in some of those positions where if you put the max amount of pawns on the board, so if there's 10 pawns on the board and maybe a lot of knights, and the position somehow gets really locked up, then the queens could actually suffer. Okay, and then this pawn will promote, and then we'll have a pretty simple checkmate. Okay, so let's get one more in. Let's see, I might be able to cross 1700. Okay, so what is this? Is this the same guy? Alright, let's see what he's learned. I really wish that there were more options and more decisions to make in this. I wish there's maybe only restriction, like you only had to place 4 pawns and then you could place whatever pieces you want. I wish they bumped up the value of the queen to 8 because, yeah, I'm sick of just placing queens all over the place. Okay, so I'm going to threaten to have an outside pass pawn. My opponent does have a pass pawn as well. Again, we're going to overload one side. This time I am black, so I do have to be a little bit more cautious. Still, if there's a way for me to make some sort of threat, then I would like to just go ahead and make it. This is a very passive way to just put all the pawns on the second rank. Note that you can't put anything on the third rank, so he's going to have to put everything on the back rank. And this is actually going to be awkward for him. He's going to have some trouble defending these pawns. So let's make things difficult for him. So for this reason, I'm only going to have 2 queens. Maybe even less for this one. I think it does actually make sense. This is going to be an exception because, both these pawns are in a little bit of trouble. So for me to win one of these guys, I'm going to have to play a little bit differently. I want to make sure that I have maximum pressure on my opponent. So he's going to have to defend this guy somehow. He actually could place down 2 more pawns here and then get a little bit safer. But it is what it is. I may actually just put a queen down here. I actually would prefer if my queen were maybe behind, since it's a little bit easier. So he's really defending this pawn a bunch. This pawn is still a problem for him, and g2 is still a problem. I really do like placing a lot of queens though, so we're going to put this queen anyway just to attack g2 and just to make him solve as many problems as possible. So we've used a lot of discount pieces, so we've saved $1, $2, $3 on rooks, and then saved $4 on queens, since there should be 9. Okay, so he defended this. Here's still a problem. And there's actually, since he's moving first, he could place up a pawn here, or he could advance the pawn, but it's still going to be kind of a cramped position for white. He does have the passed pawn, and it's connected, so yeah, maybe that's not the best thing in the world for me, but we'll have to see. He's going to have to drop his king somewhere over here. And so probably what my pieces are going to do are we're going to attack his king. There doesn't seem to be that many other valid options. Okay, my pieces are going to have to watch out for this. So if he's ever able to guard his bishop. This is really awkward for him. So pawn, pawn, and then king here. So probably I'm gonna end up pawn storming him. I guess that's what's gonna happen here. It's very logical that all my pawns are going to be placed on light squares since I have this dark square bishop. I'm expecting, yeah, these pawns are going to start rolling. He's doing a decent job of locking up some of these squares, so that's kind of an issue for me. Maybe like this pawn could get pushed and I could get my bishop to h6 and then try to accomplish something there. This is a little bit worrisome though, that he has so many pawns. If these could only get rolling somehow, then that could be good for him. This is actually a very interesting position since he has all these pawns down here. Even though I have an advantage, I'm actually not confident in this position. This is very interesting. I don't see a way. How is black going to break through here? It seems really difficult to do so. Maybe it's not going to be on the king side. It's actually going to be in the center where we're going to have some sort of breakthrough. Yeah, very, very weird and interesting. So this evaluation is going all over the place. Computer doesn't really know what's going on here. Able to, it appears to be just win a clean pawn. It's still very difficult to break in. This is a really, really nice piece. That's very annoying. I don't think I'm going to be able to win this. This is crazy. Yeah, sacrifice just to try and make something happen. And it's going to be difficult for me to get this push in. Yeah, so I had to exchange, make 2 sacrifices just to get through here. This position still looks a little bit dicey. This one could be headed for a draw because he has this extra pawn here. It's going to keep my queen very busy. If my king maneuvers over to here, I can stop the pawn, but I'm just not going to have enough stuff. Wow, okay. So this one, probably what I need to do is actually go for less queens in this case. And also, since I committed so much material before my opponent had to start, then it was actually pretty good for him. So there's the one drawback to placing down a lot of queens, is then he can respond to it. So probably if I had 2 pawns over here, maybe just needed to place these queens a little bit later, then I would have maybe a bit better chance to make something happen. So nevertheless, a very interesting strategy, overloading one side and then also trying to use queens when it's appropriate. So trying to use queens sort of at the last minute. So it's important to make sure that you count out how much money you have, and then you should be good to go on this chess variant. So if you did enjoy this video, please give a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, then please consider doing so, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. So long for now.